All right, guys, going to be a real quick video here, and we will break down the statistics for the Alabama versus Tennessee game that's going on this weekend, as well as take a look at the Auburn versus South Carolina. These statistics, I use them from week to week, and I think I've come up with a formula that kind of halfway maybe represents what might happen in the game. Of course, you know how games are. They're impossibly difficult to predict, although I will say that last week I did successfully predict the blowout Alabama game over the Aggies. So we at least do have some success occasionally. So we'll just go ahead and just jump right to the statistics here. And so what we're going to have on top is Alabama versus Tennessee. If you look at this line here, this is going to be the Tennessee offense, and you stack it up against the Tennessee defense. And what we'll be comparing is we'll look at some yardage, we'll look at some touchdowns, et cetera. And we'll also do the same thing down here for the Auburn, South Carolina game. Now, this is what the offense is putting up versus what the defense is allowing. So we're comparing the Tennessee offense to the Alabama defense. And what I've done here is I've taken the two yardages, added them together, and divided by two. Which I think might reasonably give you some expectation of what the yield might be from putting these two teams on the field. Again, it's not even close to being rocket science. It's just fiddling around with some numbers. By the way, you can get these stats from sportsreference.com. It's a freaking awesome website. Passing yards, Tennessee been putting up 231. Alabama only allowing 198. So you may be looking at Tennessee putting up the 200 range or something. And this would be touchdowns. And I have these highlighted in red because these are scoring. And then we have a total yards number to look at. And I think that you'll find this quite interesting. This would be the number of touchdowns that you would expect Tennessee to make passing, given that they average 1.7 a game, but Alabama is only allowing 0.9 a game, which is pretty stout for Alabama. So you're looking at 1.3. And then on the rushing side, Tennessee's have been putting up 1.1 touchdowns per game on average. Alabama, again, stout, only allowed in 0.3 rushing touchdowns per game, which gives you 0.7. So my score prediction, which over here is Tennessee 14, Alabama 24, which is predicting a pretty nice win for Alabama, comes basically from taking what you would expect from each of these teams to put up in terms of touchdowns from passing and scoring when you line their offenses and defenses up against each other. Vice versa, when you compare Alabama on offense versus Tennessee on defense, Alabama averaging 2.3 touchdowns a game passing. Tennessee, not too bad, only allowing 0.9. You still get a 1.6 on average you'd expect Alabama to make against Tennessee. Again, these are averaged out numbers. Each game could go differently. It's just really hard to use statistics to get an exact score, but I think it gives you some kind of an idea. And then rushing is actually even better. 2.3 a game Alabama's putting up. Tennessee allowing quite a few more, 1.6. So their rush defense not been all that stout at all. Gives you a 1.95, nearly 2 touchdowns you would expect from rushing from Alabama. And look at this total yardage. When you compare the Tennessee offense versus the Alabama defense, you're looking at maybe Tennessee total offensive yards less than 300. Now, that would be pretty impressive, I would say. And, of course, if you've seen Alabama play last week, it's certainly possible. They certainly have the personnel and the ability to do it. Compare that to the prediction for Alabama's offense versus the Tennessee defense, and you're expecting Alabama to put up over 400 yards a game. So you can see that that's a pretty good difference there, leading to the score prediction of Alabama 24, Tennessee 14, has them winning by at least 10. Comparing the Auburn game, I tell you, interestingly, I thought that the Auburn game would be a little bit more lopsided in Auburn's favor, but we really only have about a 6-point advantage for Auburn in our theoretical statistical matchup, which is, well, it's interesting indeed. You have Auburn putting up 2.2 touchdowns a game passing. South Carolina is allowing 1.5, so expect a little less than 2 TDs in the game from passing. And then rushing, it's much better for Auburn. Auburn putting up 2.2 on average, and South Carolina allowing 2.3. So South Carolina allows about what Auburn averages. So you can expect something in that neighborhood, better than 2 touchdowns rushing for 28. Of course, Auburn is looking to put up over 30 to win. That's been their formula for the past few seasons, especially any Gus Malzahn season. And then something that does look very Auburn-like, 464 yards of total offense. Compare that to South Carolina, who's putting up 2.2 touchdowns per game on average passing, and Auburn's only allowing 0.7. Auburn is actually doing better on the pass defense than they are on the rush defense, which is something I've said before. We have line issues at Auburn. I say we. Of course, Auburn is my team, but I think we have some offensive and defensive line issues. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Says we allow South Carolina a total of around 384 yards, which is quite a huge advantage for Auburn. Nevertheless, our score prediction from this stat simulation is Auburn 28, South Carolina 22. Either way, we're predicting, both teams that they win. So nevertheless, a little statistical matchup for you as we get ready for a big college football weekend as we get closer and closer to determining who winds up in the Final Four. And God, I tell you, Alabama still has some decent games on the schedule. And of course, Auburn, just brutal away games. One of those includes Alabama. So we're going to have to see how it shakes out as the season progresses. And we'll continue to come up with more devilish ways to try to predict the outcome of games that we can't possibly predict. It's fun, though, isn't it?